what's going on? Welcome back to my channel. This week I'm going to be talking about how I planned my move in just 3 months. If you guys can remember, I planned my tiny house move in just a year. Took out my notebook and I researched a lot of things in order to make this move happen. I'm going to be sharing those things with you, and hopefully if you guys ever end up moving to another state or need to in a bind, maybe some of these things can help you. So let's get started. The first thing that I did was researched the places that I wanted to go. When I was thinking about where I wanted to go, I thought about one of the warmer states that I want to end up in. I actually ended up researching 13 different places, some more than others because of cost. That was a big deal to me. I wanted to stay under like $400 because at the campground that I was in, I was paying $350, so I couldn't see myself paying more. There were a couple of factors that I needed to make sure each of these places could accommodate me. Were they pet friendly? Was the state weed legal? Was the state tiny house friendly? Was it warm? Was it one of the states I wanted to be in? Did I need certification? Was it zoned for tiny houses? Are the utilities included? Is there laundry? Is it off-grid, on-grid? What hookups do you have? What's the amp service? Will I have garden space? Will my golf cart be allowed? Will a shed be allowed? As everyone knows, I chose beloved cabin, tiny house, homestead, and stay. I'm in the only rented spot here, as they're going to turn it into another Airbnb spot eventually. But until I find my land, I'm pretty much okay in this spot. I'm loving it. It's so much more peaceful here. Doing that research and where I wanted to stay was important, because if you end up in a place that you don't like, then it's not going to be a good fit. All of these things I needed to figure out if these places could accommodate the things that I needed, so that's what I would write down. It would kick out a place if one of them did not allow something that I needed, or I'd have to figure out a plan on what to do with said item or situation in order to make it work for me and still go to that place. Next, I had to research moving companies / transport companies. Who was going to move my tiny house? Was I going to move it? Was I going to hire a truck? Was I going to hire a friend? So I started with looking for transport companies online. I ended up listening to a podcast by Ethan Waldman. He had a guest on there speaking about tiny house transport companies, and I wrote a bunch of that stuff down. They were one of the companies that I was considering, but all in all, I ended up going with Coast to Coast Transportation Company, who was recommended by someone in the group, another tiny house advocate and builder, and I read an article on his blog and went with that. I did take the recommendation on transport company, and that's how I got my house moved. I really wanted tiny house delivery company to deliver my tiny house, but I sent them 3 messages and double messages, and they saw the messages and they never responded to me. Thought that was very unprofessional, and they could have had my business, but I ended up going elsewhere. When I was living in the campground, I had a shed built. This shed was actually built 2 inches too tall, so when I decided to move to Georgia, I had to figure out, what am I going to do with this shed? Do I bring it with me and put it on a trailer and get wide loads and permits and all that stuff? Do I take the roof off and turn it upside down so that it's road legal? Do I sell it to someone in the campground? Do I sell it on Marketplace? Do I trade it with somebody that has a road legal shed? Do I put a hitch on my car and pull it behind my car as they're taking my tiny house? I had all these options that I was going to do with the shed. I really wanted to bring it with me, but the cost to move it cost over like $5,000, and the shed itself was already $5,000, so that was not an option. So I ended up selling it. I put it on Marketplace, and a nice couple in the campground ended up buying it through Marketplace, and it was really easy because they just got these like wheels that you put the pieces of wood on, and it just moved right to their spot. It was amazing, and it looks great in their spot too. I believe I got $3,000 for it. I lost about $2,000, which isn't that bad. At least I didn't pay an extra $5,000 to have the whole thing moved, because then I'd probably have to pay another $5,000 to get it moved to my land. Good thing that I sold it, and in my new spot I just have a canopy for the time being, so it's doable for me right now. Speaking of things that I had to sell, I also had to sell my blue golf cart. The blue golf cart wasn't running and it was just sitting there. The lights that we had installed were draining the batteries. Because the whole engine was redone, it was a Briggs & Stratton engine inside of a 1989 golf cart that we completely redid. That person moved and the golf cart just sat in my grass in my yard for over a year. I ended up getting a new electric golf cart that runs perfectly, but I needed to get rid of the blue golf cart. So what was I going to do with it? I didn't know if I should give it away, if I should sell it within the campground, or if I should sell it on Marketplace, or even if I should try to bring it with me and make a project out of it. All in all, I ended up selling it on Marketplace for $500. Because it wasn't running, they had to come and pick it up, which was perfectly fine with me. So that was one less headache that I had to deal with while planning for this move to go to Georgia. Because I paid $2,700 for my new electric golf cart, and before I even decided to move, I put in $800 of brand new batteries, I wasn't about to sell that also. So I decided to bring it with me. But I needed a way to bring it, so I wasn't sure how that was going to happen. Was I going to have a friend do it? Was I going to, again, put a hitch on the back of my car and pull it behind me? Was I going to hire a company to take it in an enclosed truck? And what I ended up doing was putting a listing on UShip and ended up getting 3 different quotes for enclosed shipping. I chose a specific person, I chose the lowest rate, and we worked it out. He came to my house and picked it up, and 12 hours later, I had my golf cart. I feel it's convenient because I'm further away from the community house where I do my laundry and where I get my packages. I can always drive my golf cart down there to get the stuff, as well as take garbage to my car or even take groceries from my trunk back to the house. So it is convenient, and it's an investment that I wanted to keep, and I'm glad I got to keep it. I sold the blue golf cart for $500, so I only lost about $500 on that as well. I researched how to get a license in Georgia, the requirements, how many days, what it was going to take, wrote all of that stuff down, even went to the doctor, my neurologist, because I've got epilepsy. It's on my driver's license that I need to be on medication. I chose to go to the doctor beforehand in order to get that updated so that I didn't have to deal with that in Georgia. Finding a new neurologist and telling him my history or getting records transferred, I thought to do that after I got here, but to have my one last checkup before I left, and I did that. But when I got here, I decided not to get my license right away because honestly, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. It could be anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, hopefully lesser, 6 months to a year, but who knows how long it's going to take for me to do this. So if it goes over 6 months, I might just end up getting my driver's license. I might have to. I might get fined. I don't know. But I'm going to try to get away with it because if Georgia's not the state that I find my land in, then I'm going to have to change it all over again. And it is a lengthy process to go through. So I'd rather only do it once. I did also research doctors, chiropractors, dentists, gynecologists, naturopathic doctors. I ended up only finding a couple, wrote them down, and when I'm ready to go to them, I'll schedule an appointment and deal with that. But at least I have them on paper and did the research beforehand so that just in case maybe an emergency happens, I've got their info right then and there. Because I sold my shed, I had a lot of stuff in the shed that I couldn't fit in the tiny house or in my car to be able to move to Georgia, so I had to get rid of a lot of things. I ended up having a small sale. Even though I didn't really sell anything, I pretty much gave everything away, set everything up on a table, and had people come pick through it because I know the process that it took for a whole year to sell all of my other stuff just from going tiny, and it was a lengthy process. So I didn't want to have to deal with all of that again because again, I only had 3 months. So decided to give the stuff away, and it actually worked out pretty well. I was able to say goodbye to some of those people. Everything worked out. I still have everything I need in my tiny house, and I didn't really bring anything extra. The canopy that I have outside still holds the tools that I had in the shed as well as the garden tools. I was able to take those out of the house and put them back in, say, an outside storage. Getting closer to the move, I had to start making a whole bunch of checklists in order to make sure that I was on top of everything the day that I moved. So I made a checklist for every single room and went through that checklist on the day of and a couple days before, checking off things to make sure that I was prepared. Among these checklists, I had to make sure that my cats were set up in the car properly so that they had a safe 12-hour drive, and so that if anything should go wrong, I was prepared. I had to make sure that I hired somebody to take the sewer stuff out and deal with all of that stuff, so I hired the campground. I also hired somebody to help me take off the skirting, the stuff that I couldn't get off. I also hired the campground to tilt my house towards the street in order for the transport company to hook up properly, because my house was horizontal and they could not get in the 12-foot space that was there. I had to put all that together and make sure that all came together the day of the move. These lists also included putting air in my tires, on the car, and on the house in order for both to have a safe trip. And 3 months later, just as I planned, I moved my tiny house to Georgia. Taking the notes paid off and all the due diligence to do the research and get all this stuff done. I had a couple complications when it came to staying in a hotel like the day before I got there. I was kind of rejected by the hotel because they wanted to charge me $20 per cat the day of. And I said, no, I've already paid for my room and told you I had animals. Like, get out of here, get out of here. And I'm like, no, my God. So after driving 12 hours, I was absolutely exhausted. So I'd say that was one of the only things that went wrong. Oh, and the fact that the cats freaked out on the way. I wasn't as prepared with that as I wanted to be, but I ended up going to a different hotel, and instead of really sleeping a lot, I slept 3 hours. I ended up cleaning out the cat carrier because the cats had accidents in the back. Those are the only things that happened wrong. I had a successful move and I am much happier where I am. If you guys like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button below and click the notifications bell so you can receive a notification every time I post a new video, which is every Sunday. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. And then I also started to, hold on, I had to put all that together and make sure that all came in place. A great blah. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. I had an itch on my nose the whole time. Viewers? Podcasters?